Hey tea heads, this is Don from Mayleaf. In this video, unboxing Chaozhou clay pots. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the difference between Chaozhou Red Clay and Yixing. We're going to be unboxing these little beauties, and then we're going to be doing a taste test. This video is going to go under the tea masterclasses and the tea wares playlists. If at any point in time you enjoy this video, then please give the video the thumbs up. The more thumbs in the air, the more tea videos are going to come your way. And if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, then go click that button. It's a Saturday, it's a spring Saturday in April in London. Normally we release our videos on Saturday, so apologies, this week we're a bit late. We have been furiously testing the Mayleaf website, which is just about to be launched. In fact, I can reveal to you today that we're going to be launching the Mayleaf website on the 15th of April. 15th of April is finally, after a year and a half's worth of work, we're launching this platform, and we're going to be doing a very special video on Friday to Saturday, midnight, around that time, around the launch time, to announce the launch, to explain this platform, and also a very big competition giveaway. So if you're interested in that and you're watching before the 15th of April 2017, then make sure you tune in to that video. But today, beautiful Saturday, I'm sitting outside and I want to talk to you about Chaozhou clay. And we've got some pots here for us to unbox. So we've got 7 pots here that comes from 5 different masters, and these are all fully handmade pots. So this is the cream of the crop. This is fully handmade by proper tea masters. So for those of you who don't know, I've done a video about Yixing clay, and we talked about handmade versus half handmade versus fully handmade. The quick recap is half handmade pots are still made by craftsmen, by hand, but they're using molds. So they're pressing the clay into molds, and so they mold it and then kind of assemble the pots together. Whereas fully handmade is literally piece of clay, potter's wheel, using the hands and some tools like little sticks and little abrasive tools to shape the pot entirely by hand. So every teapot is going to be unique, and it also means that you get a very, very high quality finish where everything is basically fine-tuned and crafted for exactly that teapot, and especially you get a very nice tight-fitting lid. So for those of you who haven't seen our videos on Yixing, I'll put links in the description below so you can watch the videos on Yixing clay pots, so you can recap on that. So these are all fully handmade pots, and what we did is about a year and a half ago when we were in Chaozhou, we met Master Wu. Master Wu sold us a pot, and we've done a video on that. I'll again put a link in the description below so if you can check that out. And since then I've become really interested and excited about brewing in Chaozhou Red Clay, and it's very different to Yixing. I mean, it has a different flavor profile. We're going to talk about that. But basically, I got very excited about it, and I wanted to buy more. My teaware obsession started to grow and grow and grow, especially with Chaozhou Red Clay. And so I purchased for myself 6 different pots here, and these are just arrived, and we scoured around. We really did a lot of research. We met up with another 4 different tea master potters. So these masters that have been from generation to generation making these handmade pots, and we selected 6, or I selected 6 that I really like. So these are from my personal collection. They haven't been used yet, and we are unboxing them. I was speaking to Celine last night, and I was explaining that I was going to do this video, and she said, well, why don't you offer the YouTube viewers out there a chance to get these? And I thought that's not such a bad idea. So we're going to go through each of these 6 pots. So these are just one-offs here, but I can order it again. So I am quite happy to show you these pots, and we'll, over the next week, every day on Instagram, on our Instagram page, and the link will be in the description below, we will release pictures of these 6 pots here. And you will have a chance, if you want, to register your interest, and then we can either sell you this one here, and I can order it again. It will only take about 3 or 4 weeks probably for it to come back. I've got enough teaware, so I can sell you the one that we have here. Or if we are out of stock, somebody's bought it, then maybe we can pre-order. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But if you are interested, if any of these pots really take your fancy and you think, this is something for me, then check out our Instagram page and we'll be putting details over the next week. If you're watching after the 15th of April, then you can obviously get in contact with us, but we won't have these individual ones in stock. So let's open them up and let's take a look. So as I said, we've got 5 different tea masters here. Right, the first one here, I'm going to put it here, and I've got another camera. Hopefully that camera is going to pick up everything that you need to see. So this is all handmade, fully handmade. So you can imagine that everything here is done fully handmade, and you can tell that it's fully handmade because it's kind of, when you look at the surface, you can almost pick up the working that's been done with tools and with the hands. It's not as kind of industrially pristine as either a non-handmade pot or a half-handmade pot. Half-handmade pots, use molds. This is really all being shaped by hand and by tools, and you can see it on the surface. You can see the working that's been happening on the surface. Very tight-fitting lid. You can always hear the clink of the lid, and that brings us on to something that's very special about this clay, which is it's a red clay, and it's very high in iron oxide, and also supposedly it's very high in quartz as well. So it has this very crystalline sound, almost like a bell, and I don't know if you can pick that up. And one of the things that you can do is strike the lid against the handle, or just drop it from a small height, and if you hear a very crystalline bell sound, then you know that it's higher quality clay, or at least it's been, and it's probably been fired at the right temperature, at a high enough temperature. We're going to talk all about that in a second. So this is a high profile pot. This pot has got a higher height compared to the other pots you'll see, and so it's more suited for teas which expand all ways, all directions, up and out. And I'm thinking specifically about ball rolled oolongs here, potentially. Now, most of these, all of these Chaozhou Red Clay pots are meant to be traditionally using it for Dan Cong Oolongs, but I think it's really exciting to use this teaware for other types of tea, and I'm definitely doing a lot of experiments on that. And this high profile is very suited to ball rolled oolongs. So I think that's very nice. So that's pot number 1, and that comes from a potter called Mrs. Zhang. There are lots of Zhangs and Wus in the Chaozhou potting industry. Potting industry? I'm not sure if that's the right word. Pottery industry. Right. So this is from a different tea master, and you'll notice that the clay is a different color and a different texture. So this clay is slightly lighter, and it has a slightly more rough texture. So with this clay, the amount of sand in the clay is going to affect the texture. You can get very, very smooth, ultra kind of glassy, shiny, smooth red clay, which I really, really love. But you can also get this kind of speckled, slightly rougher and more textured clay, which I think is actually really beautiful in its own way as well. And it's not a quality thing. You can get high quality and low quality clay, and it can be slightly sandier, in other words, a little bit more rough, or it can be ultra smooth. So it's not definer of quality, it's more your taste or what you would like to have in your collection. Have a bit of both, is my opinion. So this shape is obviously a low profile, so suited for teas which expand more outwards. This is a real classic one for Dan Cong, because Dan Cong is the strip oolong, and so it kind of doesn't expand all ways, it kind of just expands outwards a bit. So it's going to be very suited for Dan Cong. Lovely, again, nice tight fitting lid. Listen to that. Oh, very nice bell sound there. Very, very nice. So that's pot number 2. Right. Here, the eagle-eyed viewers amongst you will notice that this is Mrs. Zhang again. And this one is a kind of mid-profile pot. You can see there. And I love this shape. I really love this shape. This is one of my favorite shapes. And then the nice, I'll show the camera here, just in case that other camera is not picking it up. You can see the profile here. I hope that's in focus. And it's got a really lovely detail here. The spout is kind of got a squared off shape. Very, very nice. Really lovely to hold. The tactile qualities of these pots is just amazing. And that's where you really notice the handmade versus half handmade. Just, you know, the feeling of the pot, the balance. I'll put it down here. You'll see that it's smooth. It's almost imperceptible. You know, if you run your finger across it, the slight change in surface here. It's really, really smooth. And that makes a very tight fitting lid, which means that you can control the pour very well. And that control of pour is especially suited for Chaozhou style brewing, because Chaozhou style brewing, usually they're not using a gong bei. They're not decanting the tea into a fairness cup. Usually they're pouring direct from here into the cups in a circular motion. And so being able to control the pour, using the hole up here to stop and control the pour, or control the speed of the pour, is a very nice thing. And these handmade, fully handmade pots with tight fitting lids really help you to do that. So this is pot number 3. Again, I love it. Otherwise I wouldn't have selected it. And you can see that this is the smoother clay, this one here. Less sand and less texture in it. Very nice, and you can see the working on it. All of the teapots come with certification, by the way. Right, let's move on to pot number 4 here. I'm going to move these out of the way. Right, pot number 4. This is from a different tea master. And I really like this one because it feels very, very handmade, this one. Put this down on the floor. So this one is a very, very handmade one. And what I mean by that is you really can see the work that's been done on it. It's very, very good craftsmanship, very, very smooth. The lid is super tight fitting on this, really, really tight fitting. And it's just got a the quality of the clay is very, very, very smooth, very fine. So it has this very artisanal feel to it. I'll show it to the camera. Again, none of these have been used yet, but I know, 100%, I know that the pours on these are going to be incredible. They're going to be great pouring teapots. We've tested out all of these masters when we visited their workshops in Chaozhou, so we know that this is super high quality. Okay, moving on to 2 more here, both from the same master. How cute is this? What a beautiful pot. So it's got a slightly textured surface here. This is more textured surface. And it's a slightly smaller, but it's that classic Zisha shape, which is really, really lovely. It's similar to our Yixing Clay Pot, but a smaller version. Beautiful, tight-fitting lid. Oh, very high-sounding, metallic sound. Wow, I love this pot. I'm a sucker for this shape. This is one of my favorite shapes. It's a very classic shape, nothing particularly original, but it's just so perfectly balanced with that nicely little short upturned spout there. It's beautiful, and I know that that's going to pour very well indeed as well. So that's pot number 5. Put that down here. Oh, make sure I put the certificate with it. Don't want to lose that. Okay, and finally from the same master, we have this very, very original one here. Kind of like got a little bit of an Aladdin's lamp look to it. I'll show it to the camera just in case we're not picking it up over there. Beautiful. So it's a low profile, very flat, low profile, again suited for strip oolongs. I would not use this for ball rolled oolongs. Strip oolongs would be good. Pu'er teas, potentially, raw pu'er teas, but again, it's a bit too flat for that because the pu'er teas expand quite a lot as well if you're looking at shengcha. So slightly textured, the same material as the previous ones because it's the same potter, the same person making it, so it's using the same clay, slightly lighter clay, but the clay will change color, and I will show you that in a second. The clay will change color. So this is pot number 6. And finally is pot number 7. And pot number 7 is a pot that we have actually purchased 10 of these pots. So we've purchased 10 of them, and this is from Master Wu. So again, if you've not seen the video, then you can check it out where we visited Master Wu. So this is a Master Wu pot. We bought this pot ourselves. I'll put it down here. So this is the pot that we bought when we were in Chaozhou, and I love this pot. This has been my favorite pot that I've been working with. I love the profile, I love the shape. The tip on it is just stunning. I hope that you can see the tip. I hope that you can see. This is something that Master Wu does, and I haven't seen with any other potter. He does this incredible tip with a lovely, soft, angled, triangular shape to it. Beautiful. All fully handmade. I mean, it's mind-blowing that this has been done by hand. It really is incredible to think that this has been done by hand. And I love this shape. It's a really nice shape because it's suited really well to lots of different types of teas. It's suited to the Dan Cong flat, so it's relatively low profile, so you can make a very rich brew. But it also has a little bit of height, so you can also brew teas that expand a little bit more. I will do another video about brewing and the pot shape, but this is a really lovely profile. So we purchased this about a year and a half ago, about a year ago, and we've been using it a lot for our Dan Congs. And I wanted Master Wu to make 10 so that I could provide them to you. So we've purchased 10, and let me show you what has arrived. So this is the certificate. Oh wow, you can smell the workshop in it. Oh, transports you back to China. The smell of a clay workshop there. Okay, and here we go. Careful, don't want to break it. Let me put this away. Right, so here is what has just arrived, and again, you can see the working on it. You can see that it's handmade. Here you go, and you can see that I asked for the pot to be made slightly smaller. So this is about 120 mil. This is just over 100 mil, about 105 mil, we measured it. So it's a 100 mil pot essentially, but just over, slightly over. And I think that that size is the ultimate size for you to be able to really get really beautiful, rich brews from your Dan Cong without using too much leaf. This is the right size. This for me, slightly too big. This one is exactly the right size. Again, hasn't been used yet, but I'm sure it's going to have the same quality pour. Again, you can see that spout. Let me see if you guys can, if I can focus on this camera. Maybe you can see the spout has got a really lovely triangular, slightly rounded triangular shape to it. So let's talk a little bit about red clay and how it's different from Yixing. Red clay obviously comes from Chaozhou, comes from that southern region of China, and is predominantly used to make teapots for Dan Cong brewing. It's interesting to note that the Gong Fu style of brewing, so the way of brewing that we always talk about on the Mayleaf channel, has roots, has very strong roots in Chaozhou. In fact, a lot of people think that Gong Fu style brewing started in Chaozhou. So this is a very historical area for Gong Fu brewing. The Chaozhou Red Clay is rich in iron oxide and quartz, which gives it this red color and gives it a very crystalline structure. It can be fired at a high temperature and has very low shrinkage, and that means that you can craft it easier than Yixing because you're not worried about it shrinking too much in the fire. It means you can make it really, really detailed, and you can get very tight fitting lids, really with that amazing ability for pour control with this hole at the top blocking it. So you've got a very the ability to make much tighter fitting lids easily with Chaozhou Red Clay because it has less shrinkage. Because it has less shrinkage, it doesn't expand and contract as much as Yixing, and so you don't get this kind of wrinkled appearance on the clay itself, on the surface of the clay, and you have a lot more of a smooth surface. Okay, so we're going to do a taste test between red clay and Yixing. Before we do that, let's quickly talk about the theories of how the pots affect the tea. So Essentially, there are three things about the property of the clay that will affect the quality of your brew. The first is the clay itself, obviously the minerality in the clay, what the components are in the clay, how they're different. And I am not a geologist, so I'm not going to go through too much detail here because it would just be hearsay. However, it is clear that Yixing and the Chaozhou Red Clay has got different minerality. As I said, it appears that it's got more metal, more iron oxide in the Chaozhou Red Clay, and therefore it will have a slightly different reaction with the tea. The second thing is the porosity. So the porosity of red clay is affected by the clay itself, how it's worked, how it's handled. So when the potter is folding the clay, how much air they put through it, and also the natural porosity of the clay. So you've got primary porosity, which is the actual porosity of the clay, and then you've got secondary porosity, which is how the master works it, how much air they put in or how much air they bash out. And then the next thing that affects porosity is the firing temperature, how high the firing temperature is. The higher that you fire the temperature, the more you reduce the porosity of the actual teaware. So you get closer to porcelain, so it becomes slightly, even though these are unglazed, it becomes slightly less porous and therefore is going to have less of an immediate effect on the tea. And for some teas, that's a good thing. The third thing, so we've talked about the minerality in the clay, we've talked about the porosity, and the third thing is the temperature retention, how the clay is affected by temperature. We all know that Yixing clay pots have a very good heat retention, so they will store heat very well. Once you've heated it up, it doesn't release heat very quickly, so it stores heat very well, and so you can get very strong extractions, very strong brews. And conversely, glass and porcelain tends to release heat much quicker, so you can brew on an arc, so you can brew teas that are much more suited for cooler water, for less of that strong extraction like green teas or lighter teas. The red clay is the perfect in-between, in my opinion, because it has got good heat retention, but because the red clay has less shrinkage during the manufacturing process, they can make the walls thinner, so you can get very, very thin walls, and that means that you can have clay which holds the heat well, but is not as strong in terms of the extraction as Yixing, and therefore it's more suited to more pernickety, lighter oolongs or Dan Cong teas. Because it's thinner walled, you have to season this pot. You have to do the same thing as you would with a Yixing pot, but I would be much more careful with a Chaozhou clay pot. So in order to prepare these Chaozhou clay pots, what I advise you to do is bring some water to the boil, separate from your pot. Once it's at the boil, turn it off, leave it for a couple of minutes, and then carefully submerge, with the lid off, submerge the pot into the boiling water, allow it to cool down for about 20 to 30 minutes, something like that. Take it out. That should start to get rid of all of the kind of residual clay on the surface and start to open up the pores of the pot. And then you can brew some strong tea, again separate, boil it up, brew some strong tea, the tea that you're planning to use theoretically with it, although it's not a huge deal. This is if you want to season it a bit quicker. And then you can take that very strong tea that's very hot, take it off the heat, and then put the lid and the pot back in, leave it again for about 30 minutes, something like that, take it out, and then theoretically your pot is ready. If you really wanted to try to speed up the seasoning process, then you can keep doing that step of brewing strong tea. As I've said before in many other videos, I'm not really that bothered so much about the seasoning of the teapot. Mostly what's important is how it reacts with the tea when you're brewing. That's the most important thing, and that's what we're going to find out now. So I'm going to clear this away very carefully. We're going to set up and we're going to do a taste test between Chaozhou Red Clay and Yixing. All right, taste test time. Obviously I have Dan Cong in this guy one here. This is Oriental Red, which is a unbelievable Dan Cong tea. It's a very expensive Dan Cong tea. It's April. I'm speaking to you from April, so the tea is being picked and we're starting to get samples. But this tea has not been roasted fully, so this is a Mao Cha. It's an Oriental Red Mao Cha. Oriental Red Dan Cong is an amazing Dan Cong, but it is very expensive. Let me show you this. Maybe if we can find the right one at the right price. we will get some Oriental Red Dan Cong in this year. I hope so. If we do, I will do a separate video about that. I've got my clay pot here, not the one that we've just got from Master Wu, because obviously these ones are for sale and therefore I do not want to use them. But visually you can see a slight difference in color of the clay. It's very, very slight, but you can see it. This one has been used for a year. It's the same clay, and this one has been used for a year, so it's got a slightly different color. But I'm going to put this back, make sure it doesn't get wet, doesn't get affected at all, and put it away nice and safe. Okay, so what we have is our Oriental Red here, and I'm going to give it a quick rinse, boiling hot water, as hot as possible. Give it a quick rinse. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to brew in the Guy 1. The reason for that is because I want to make a transparent brew, taste it, and then we're going to see how it's affected by the clays. So let's give this one a quick smell first. This is the second time I've tasted this. So this is a fresh sample of Oriental Red. Okay, so I'm getting slight zesty notes, grapefruit. I'm also, there's creaminess to it, lemon custard tarts. Lemon custard tarts, slight spice, eucalyptus spices, and that zesty and slight bright cherry notes, or is it cherry? No, it's not. It's more citrus than that. Things like nectarines, those kind of brighter notes. And this is the key here. So why is Dan Cong more suited to Chaozhou than Yixing? Well, we're going to taste whether or not it is, but I have my suspicions already. So we talked about the three things in clay: minerality, porosity, and heat retention. So minerality, they're clearly different. You can see color is different. So this is a clear demonstration that the minerality must be different in them. And there are some people that say that the minerality of the red clay is more suited to Dan Cong because it grows in the same soil, it's the same environment, same terroir, etc. And so therefore the minerals are the same. Possibly, potentially true. The second thing is porosity. Now, even though some people say that the Chaozhou Red Clay is more porous than the Yixing clay, I think that maybe that's true, but in my opinion, maybe it's the fact that they can fire the red clay at a higher temperature, but I feel that there is less porosity. In other words, the minerality is going to have an effect, but less of an effect, less of an immediate effect than the Yixing clay. And that may sound to some people out there like, well, what's the point? I might as well go for the one that has the most effect. The problem is that with Yixing clay, with any clay that has this real porosity that really has an effect on the tea, what it tends to do is make the tea very smooth, very improves the body of the tea. It makes it very silky. It rounds off any bitterness and astringency, so you can brew nice, hot, nice, strong brews that are going to get you feeling really good, and you're not going to have that excessive astringency. But what it does as well is it rounds off some of the top notes, some of the brighter notes, and that works for certain teas. But for Dan Cong in particular, one of the things that I love about Dan Cong is those bright, fruity, very kind of transient notes, these flowery and the short notes, the ones that hit the front of your nose, those real kind of bright notes. And if you brew in Yixing, there's a risk that you are going to take too many of those off. So the porosity of the Chaozhou Red Clay, I think, the finished pot, maybe it's because of the firing at a higher temperature, but it just feels more crystalline. It feels a little bit more closer to porcelain. It's just protecting those high notes, but still doing a good job of rounding out some of those lower, rounding out some of those astringent notes. And we all know that Dan Cong can be particularly astringent. And finally, the temperature retention. The Chaozhou, because of its thinner walls, has a slightly lower temperature retention than the Yixing. And therefore, with the Yixing, you can brew very strong extractions very, very easily. But with the Chaozhou, it allows you to put more delicate teas in there. So you could start to experiment with your, obviously Dan Congs, but you could experiment with light oolongs, like green oolongs. You could even experiment with green teas and teas that you wouldn't normally ever consider putting into a Yixing. Let me give this another smell. Okay, so I'm picking up nutty notes now. Very juicy nectarines and some roasted nuts. Some roasted nuts, maybe not hazelnuts, walnuts, and some very juicy notes. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to brew up a couple of infusions at the same time of this tea, and we're going to brew them up in the Gai one. So Chaozhou style brewing, traditionally, you are not using a fairness cup, but I need to in this case because I want to make one even brew that we're going to taste across 3 different styles of teaware: Porcelain, Yixing, and Chaozhou. So I'm going to brew 3, we're going to mix them up, and then we're going to pour them into here to see how the clay affects it. And this is one of the things that you can do at home. You know, a lot of people think that you need to brew the tea in the teaware in order for you to really notice the difference. That's not true. The tea will instantly react with the clay. My cat is around. We're going to do one more small brew here, and then I'll show you these leaves. You can see that this is a Mao cha. It's starting to go green. And the reason why I picked a Mao cha is because obviously with the roast, it rounds out the tea. And so with the Mao cha, it has naturally got extra bitterness, extra astringency, and more green notes to it. And therefore, it's a great way to test the effect of the clay. Right, so that's a full picture of this Oriental Red. Right, so let me show you these leaves here. There you go. And you can see that the Mao cha is starting to show that it's a little bit more green than you would normally get with a more roasted Dan Cong. So let's take a look at the liquor. Gorgeous, gorgeous liquor. I'm going to put this down here. Tempted to keep smelling, but I'm conscious of time. Right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to pour some of the tea into this Yixing, and this is the one I use for oolongs. We're going to pour some of the tea into this lovely, you see how tight fitting the lid is, this lovely Master Wu pot here, a tiny bit more. Let's do a bit more in here. Right, now I'm going to taste the tea that's brewed in porcelain. So this is going to be obviously having the most neutral taste of the tea. Cheers, everybody. Some 2017 Dan Cong Mao Cha Oriental Red. Warm notes. Slight malt. Little rocky. Got the minerality. The Mao cha starts to show itself. It starts to appear on the back of my tongue with that drier, slight bitterness, a catching feeling and bitterness. And that would be rounded out by the roast. So if we purchased this, then it would be roasted, obviously, and it would have those rounded out. But this is what you do when you're tasting spring teas. You taste the Mao cha, and you have to kind of buy on the basis of the Mao cha. Really, really delicious. Got floral, but very buttery floral notes. I'm not great with flowers, but less of the bright, perfumey floral notes, more what you would imagine a buttercup to smell like, even though buttercups don't smell like anything. So meadow flowers, those summer meadow flowers. Nose of the empty cup, really creamy. Always the empty cup always reveals more of the warmth of the tea. Creamy, now I'm getting coconut. Real coconut, not coconut water, actual desiccated coconut. And a slight, varnishy, a little bit leathery, but very, very slight. Mostly it's fresh, it's very fresh. The fruitiness on the nose is less. It's much more about grass, meadows, flowers, and some kind of desiccated coconuts. Very, very nice. Right, let's pour the Yixing in here. So that's had about a minute, I would say. And then we're going to pour, and I'll show you the pour on this. So let me, if I block the hole, you can see nothing. Release it, look at that. That is, number one, a fully handmade pot, and number two, Chaozhou. Because of the reduced shrinkage, it allows them to fine tune the actual construction of the teaware. Look at that, look how perfect that pour is. And we're going to pour some of the neutral porcelain brewed one in here, and let's now taste the difference. I'm not going to do this blind. I know I should do it blind, but I don't have Celine with me to mix up all the cups. So let me remind myself of the porcelain one. And what I'm focusing on is the top notes, and then the how much astringency and how much bitterness is. I want to keep the top notes. I want to keep that brightness and that juiciness, but I want to try to temper down the astringency of Dan Congs in general, and specifically Maocha's. Okay, let's taste the clay. Immediately on my mouth, different texture, much thicker, much thicker. I'm not even tasting it, I'm just focusing on texture, much, much thicker than the porcelain. So the clay has had its effect, really, really lubricating. Okay, exactly as I would have expected. Super smooth, velvety. The astringency is the barest hint of a grip, barest hint of bitterness. It's really, really, really gentle. Very, very small amount of astringency. And so that's great. The texture is perfect. However, top notes, those kind of bright, grassy, floral notes are just being edged off. It's like you're sanding off the corners of those nice details, and it's kind of losing something here. Let's taste from the Chaozhou Red Clay. There you have it. It's the perfect in between. So I've got the bright notes. I've got the coconut. I've got coconut, and I've got a slight, that lemoniness is coming through, but it's like a lemon custard. So it's like a lemon curd, coconut. Those bright notes that I'm getting in this, definitely not there. This is more about minerality. It's got more of the kind of medium to low notes. This has got top notes. In terms of texture, not as thick as the Yixing. Yixing has definitely got more of a syrupy texture, but the astringency on this is definitely still rounded off in a really nice way compared with. So this one now just tastes very thin. The texture is very thin, and I'm getting a lot of that back of the throat grip, and a slight pharmaceutical bitterness. So like if you've kind of rubbed a bit of aspirin on the back of your tongue, just a slight pharmaceutical bitterness. Now, remember again, this is Maocha, okay? That will be rounded out. That's the whole point of the roasting process. But it's nice to test it. Because this, I would imagine that's already gone through one roast. It's got that astringency definitely taken off it. It's still got a little bit, but it's hardly there. So, conclusions, exactly as I would have expected. I know some people are going to say I should do a blind tasting. You're right, I should do a blind tasting because my mind might be playing tricks on me, but I'm pretty convinced it is not. The porcelain is going to give you the most thin texture. It's really suited for light teas, for bright teas, for teas that you want to maintain all of those top notes. And don't have much astringency, especially if you're brewing at lower temperature. The Yixing clay pot produces a stronger brew, produces a thicker, more luxurious, smoother brew. It takes away all the astringency, really, really lovely. We love our Yixing clay, but it does round off and dial down some of those bright top notes. And the Chaozhou Red Clay is the in-between. The Chaozhou Red Clay protects the top notes and rounds off not as much, not as thick texture, but it does round off the astringency. And that's why I love Chaozhou, because Chaozhou Red Clay allows me to brew Dan Congs really, really well. It also is suited to some raw pu'ers that are not too overly astringent, and you want to protect some of the more floral high notes. It also really works well for green oolongs in general. And if you're going to be looking for ball rolled green oolongs, then you want one that has capacity to expand in it. So this is a good shape, or the ones that are even taller. Right. That's it. I hope that this has given you a little bit of an introduction to the different types of clay. I will be doing other videos about shapes and brewing styles. So if you're interested in anything else, then please stick it in the description below. And remember, if you're interested in these pots, we've got 10 of these Master Wu pots in stock. And we've got one which were meant to be my individual pots that I chose, but I'm happy for us to pre-order, sell them to you. If you're interested, check out our Instagram page over the next week until the 15th of April. If you're watching past the 15th of April, then feel free to write to us and we can see if we can source those pots for you. And remember, next week is the website launch. That's it, tea heads. If you made it to the end of this video, then please give it the thumbs up. Check out our YouTube playlist and let us know if there are any videos that you would like us to make. If you're ever in London, then come visit us in Camden to say hi and taste our wares. If you have any questions or comments, then please fire them over. Other than that, I'm Don May from Mayleaf. Thank you for being a part of the revelation of true tea. Stay away from those tea bags, keep drinking the good stuff, and spread the word, because nobody deserves bad tea. Bye.